What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean the freedom to choose? The freedom to have a family and raise your kids according to your own values? What about living a wild, adventurous life, experimenting with music, relationships, or art? What does freedom really mean? What if freedom meant something that only a few Americans still understood? What if it meant that your choices and your values were set by you, rather than by some politician in a far-off capital? Some people think we're only free to choose to live exactly how they live, by their moral code, or their narrow worldviews. But if liberty means anything, it means that you, and you alone, have the power to exercise your rights to which the laws of nature and nature's God granted you. It's time to put these principles back into action. It's time to restore the American dream, activate in our communities, and take our country back. It's time to wake up, America. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. Happy Tuesday. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Today is February 28th, and don't forget, today's the last day in February, so tomorrow rent is due. Aww. I know. It feels like you should get like a little bit of a deal. Like there should be prorated rent for February. Or maybe there already is or something like that. I'm just too stupid to know. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Communist COVID copes and right-wing election grifts. Today's show is brought to you by the powers of BS. We're going to talk this morning about Rupert Murdoch of Fox News admitting that they knew that the election wasn't stolen all along. The 2020 election, that is. Of course, the 2016 election was totally stolen, says the left. 2016 election was stolen. 2020 election was stolen. The only election that was stolen in 2016 was my election, right? You know, that's what it was. You know what's funny? I'll tell you really briefly a little conspiracy theory. So in 2016, after I lost the Libertarian presidential nomination, there was a conspiracy theory afloat that Roger Stone was at the LP convention in 2016 to make sure that I didn't win because he wanted Donald Trump to win and he didn't want a kind of right-wing libertarian to take votes away from Donald Trump and ensure that Hillary Clinton won in 2016, which if it's true, that was probably a really smart move on Roger Stone's part because he ended up getting pardoned by Donald Trump and that wouldn't have happened under Hillary Clinton. So, you know what? Congratulations, Roger Stone. It all worked out for you in the end. We're going to talk about Rupert Murdoch, the chairman of Fox News, acknowledging in a deposition, a sworn deposition, taken by Dominion Voting Systems, that some Fox News hosts endorsed false claims the 2020 election was stolen. We'll talk about that at the top of the show. Then at 7:18 this morning, a Fairfax County representative, that's in Virginia, came out and said that the Battle of Iwo Jima was evil. And I'm going to go out there on a limb and guess that she's not a libertarian arguing anti-war, that, you know, all war is evil. I'm going to guess that it's probably something more along the lines of America is the great Satan. We'll talk about that at 7:18. And just to confuse you even more, at 7:37 this morning, Marvel movies are a psyop, says my guest, Samuel Goldman-Lenett. He's going to join us this morning. Samuel Goldman-Lenett from Young Voices will talk to us about his article about why the themes of revolution in Marvel movies are meant to radicalize us and our young kids. And I don't watch them because they are all a psyop. All of Hollywood's a psyop, except for that one good movie that they did, which wasn't really a Hollywood movie. What was it? What We Do in the Shadows? The movie, not the TV show. TV show was okay. Movie, brilliant. It was awesome. Yes, golden. You haven't seen it. Very funny. And at 7:51 this morning, you know what? I think it's a little bit too early in the show for me to introduce this disgusting article, but we will talk about it at 7:51 after you've had your coffee. Good morning to John Knox, Michael Nip, Tolly Owens, Chris Morrill, Matt Unruh. Nice to see you all here this morning. Glad to have you here as well. All of the friends who are joining us on the program, Freedom Friends, if you will. At 8 o'clock this morning, one of our friends of freedom, Camelia Peterson, is going to join us. Not in studio, unfortunately, but live and on camera to talk to us about a poll that came out that showed that 67% of Wimminz say that they could do their jobs better, do their boss's job better than their boss if they were just given the chance. Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than CJ. No, you can't. Yes, I can. All right, we'll talk about that with CJ at 8. And at 8:30 this morning, BX Bullet, lovely Bex, will join us at 8:30 to talk about the danger of AI deepfakes. You've already seen some of my commercials with admittedly pretty crappy cartoons of Barack Obama and Joe Biden, and that took me way too long to produce for you guys. So I do hope you appreciate them. But the AI voices of Elon Musk and Barack Obama, for people who can actually animate those characters or who can take videos of them and make it look like they're saying certain things. And honestly, and I hate to use this word again so early, but I mean like pornography of deep fakes. You know what I'm saying right there? It's kind of like, yikes. Dangerous kind of things you want to look out for. It's, well, for some people it's that, but for other people it's,
how dare you?
And for me, it's more like,
oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the f, man? Get your ass on, boy. You get your goddamn ugly ass on.
Yeah. So something definitely to keep an eye out for. We'll talk with BX Bullet today about the dangers of AI deep fakes and why it's something that you'll want to keep an eye on at 8:30. Let's talk top of the show. So, communist COVID copes. So my belief is that, of course, because everything's a psyop and we are in an information war, that the sort of overemphasis by the left on this story about Rupert Murdoch in a sworn deposition talking about Fox News I say officials, but just right-wing talk show hosts on the network coming out and endorsing the stolen election myth, which they didn't actually believe, by the way. As a cope. But I think that the reality is that the left is focusing on this quite a lot because they really need to distract from the fact that the Chinese coof emerged from a lab in Wuhan, and they were calling everybody a racist for even suggesting that it might come out, which I thought was interesting. My buddy Alejandro yesterday pointed out the fact that it's actually more racist to suggest that Chinese eating bats was the cause of COVID-19 versus just a simple leak from a coronavirus laboratory. But this emphasis today that you'll see, which is, glaring headlines, Rupert Murdoch says Fox News knew that the 2020 election wasn't stolen. And some of the revelations in this deposition are pretty dang juicy, and I'm going to share some of them with you. But the whole concept of the psyop is that you want to paper over the stories that make you look bad and only talk about stories that make you look good and make your opponents look bad. So that's why when you open up the newspapers today, or if you go to if you type in, what I do is I go to news.google.com. I've got like 20 different news aggregators, but I usually start at news.google.com, and it's just blaring everywhere. Fox News host said this, Rupert Murdoch says that, because the last thing they want to talk about is that they were calling us all racist for 2 or 3 years for suggesting the reality that China botched a lab, the containment of COVID-19 in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And the last thing they want to talk about is that Anthony Fauci, here's my next conspiracy theory that's going to be proven to be a real conspiracy, is that, I believe in some conspiracy theories, right? But they're actual conspiracies, not theories. That Anthony Fauci funded gain of function research at the coronavirus laboratory through a pass-through organization called EcoHealth, as Elon Musk pointed out yesterday, which I'm glad that he did. But since the title of this program is Communist COVID Copes and Right-Wing Election Grifts, we're going to talk about the right-wing election grifts because I just talked about the communist COVID copes, right? Because this is a liberty show where we talk about what's real and what's true and what's right, not just what serves our side or our team, right? It's not just about left-right bias over here, although I lean a little bit right, but I also lean more towards liberty and freedom and the truth. And that's what you're going to get on the Wake Up America show. And it might mean that we might lose some viewers. It might mean that some people say, you know what, Austin, I'm never going to watch a show again because you don't reinforce the programming. The programming says that my side is always right, right? Well, Q, all right? If you don't like it, get out, all right? You're going to get the truth here no matter how bad it hurts, as Three Dogs said on my favorite game, Fallout 3. All right, moving on. Murdoch acknowledges Fox News hosts endorsed election fraud falsehoods. God damn, am I sick of hearing this BS claim that the 2020 election was stolen, just like I was sick of hearing the BS claim that the 2016 election was stolen. Not to say that elections can't be stolen. They absolutely can. For an example of that, look at Lyndon Johnson's U.S. Senate campaign in Texas, where they actually found boxes of ballots floating down the river. Not to say that you couldn't steal an election, right? Really hard to steal a national election. I'll tell you this. But let's talk about you suck, Austin, says Dustin. That's very funny. Rupert Murdoch, the chairman of Fox News Corporation, acknowledged in a deposition, again, sworn statement. It's funny how people talk on the internet or talk in real life or in the world, or talk on their phones or social media. But when they actually have to sit down and make a sworn statement, that's when things get interesting. When you really start to learn the truth, you realize that people, when there are consequences for lying, right? There are no consequences for lying on social media. When some fake cartoon avatar with a person who you have no idea who it is behind them, there's no consequences for them lying, right? When there's no consequences for lying, going out on TV or lying in the newspapers, lying in books, lying on social media, lying on podcasts, right? When there's no consequences, people will say anything, right? Just as long as you continue to watch and as long as you continue to buy the product or whatever it is you kind of try to do, right? I realize the irony of someone like me saying something like this, but every once in a while, a podcaster will actually tell you the truth, right? And you're going to get it here and you're going to get it unvarnished, and it's going to make you feel so. Here we go. Rupert Murdoch's remarks were made in public as a legal filing as part of the $1.6 billion lawsuit against Fox News. In his deposition, Murdoch rejected that the right-wing talk network as an entity, right, endorsed the 2020 stolen election myths. But Murdoch did concede that Sean Hannity, Jeanine Pirro, Maria Bartiromo, and former host Lou Dobbs promoted the falsehood that the presidential election contest was stolen. He said, Murdoch said, Rupert Murdoch, can I read it in his Australian accent? Some of our commentators were endorsing it, Murdoch said. I would have liked us to have been stronger in denouncing it in hindsight. He says the filing also revealed that Murdoch referred to some of the election lies as BS and damaging. Yeah, probably true. But what was funny too is that after Fox News immediately, after Fox News did that Arizona call for Biden, they lost so many viewers and ratings. They actually fired all of the hosts, all the election coverage people who called that correctly and who were honest about who won the election, because their ratings tanked. Anyways, there's some more juicy revelations in here, and let's get to this, right? So Dominion's lawsuit is always so Fox News is firing back at Dominion on a free speech grounds, right? They're saying that, Fox as a whole did not endorse the stolen election myth, but what they're saying is that they still have free speech rights, and Dominion can't. It's frivolous to sue them for $1.6 billion, and it probably is, because it, to a certain degree, are lies covered by free speech? It's hard to say, right? It's all about harm, right? The harm principle, how much harm was done. There probably was some harm done to Dominion voting systems. And so the question of $1.6 billion, is that really the right number? Well, that's up to a judge, not me. So in terms of what's fascinating to me, though, is how much, like, these television news hosts, they really despise you. What's funny is that this populist movement, this anti-elitist movement on the right? The right has their own elites, but they all are like dressed up in this concept of like anti-elitism, right? Like we're fighting for the little guy. But that's just because that rhetoric is popular right now. I mean, privately, listen, as somebody who's worked in all these circles, I'll tell you, they don't like you. Okay, they're not one of you. All right, you are not like them. And I'll never forget one time. And you know what? Glenn Beck is actually a little bit different, although, Glenn's an elite. I'll never forget that one time I walked out of the building there in New York, and I was like walking behind Glenn Beck, and there was this guy on the street. It's just like typical, like, I guess, like a redneck from the Midwest who was like there as a tourist, right? And I'm not saying redneck is a bad thing, I love rednecks. I'm from a redneck family, but the redneck guy saw Glenn Beck and was like, Glenn, you're awesome. And Glenn was just like, thanks, right? He didn't know what to say, right? Because it was just kind of this awkward, like, clashing of two worlds. I mean, Glenn's not a redneck, right? So it was kind of like this moment where, like, Glenn's emerging, like, all dressed up, pimped out, like, it's like $5,000 glasses and stuff, and like probably like a $300 haircut, right? And this guy is just looking at him like he's a god emerging from this glass palace and stuff. There's this huge disconnect, right? And like these talents, they don't think that they're the same as everybody else. They don't, right? That is very popular to pretend like they are, But the fact is that they knew that it wasn't stolen, but they knew that they would get their ass in big trouble. They could be fired, just like Chris Stirewalt was fired. He was an awesome election reporter there at Fox News, probably the best that they had, but they had to let him go because he wouldn't propagate the whole 2020 stolen election myth. He wasn't going to spread the bullshit. He wasn't going to spread the fear, and he wasn't going to spread the lies, because the fact is that people like that are named here, they have to lie to you because they need jobs, right? They've got to make that money. I'll tell you, these people have glass palaces, penthouses in Manhattan, and those cost a lot of money. And if you lose your job and you have got a mortgage on one of those, like, apartments in Trump Tower, those things are like $16,000 a month. That's a lot of money. And if you lose your job, you're in big trouble, right? You still got to make that mortgage. And here's the thing. Who's going to hire you if you get fired by Fox News? Who's going to hire you if they let you go at Fox News? What are you going to do? Walk across the street to Rockefeller Center and get a job at NBC? No, not going to happen, right? You're tainted, okay? So they have to lie to people. They have to tell the people what they want to hear, right? But you can fool the people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Get up, stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up for your rights. All right, now, when I get back, I'll tell you the rest of the story. Maybe I'll play that clip for you about Iwo Jima. I got to go get that clip and get it ready. I promise I won't take too long. Don't leave. I'll be right back. I got some more truth bombs for you on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
All right, we're back a little bit early from those commercials. Don't you love it when I do that? That's because I got a guest coming up in like less than 10 minutes and I got to hurry through this because I thought here's another little bit of like juicy information released in this deposition from Fox News's Rupert Murdoch, where he says that it was wrong for Tucker Carlson to have hosted Mike Lindell on his program following the presidential election. That's fascinating. Murdoch testified it was wrong for Tucker to host Mike Lindell to repeat those allegations against Dominion on January 26, 2021. When asked why he continued to allow Lindell, the MyPillow CEO, to make election fraud claims on Fox, Murdoch says it was a business decision. It's not red or blue, he says. It's green. Makes a lot of sense. This man is on every night, pays us a lot of money. At first you think it's comic, and then you get bored and irritated. Murdoch also says he could have stopped Giuliani and Sidney Powell, who alleged election of fraud, from appearing in the network's programs. He said, I could have, but I didn't. Paul Ryan apparently warned the Murdochs to stop spreading false election narratives. Another reason why a lot of Trumpers hate Paul Ryan. Also because they're just like, terrified of libertarians. Murdoch gave Kushner confidential information about Biden ads. Another bit of juicy gossip from that kind of stuff. It's interesting. I think this stuff is fascinating. Why is it that so many people can't see this? Here's why I think it is. I think it's mostly because there was this whole propagation of this before the election happened. Remember back in 2016 where Trump was saying that if he lost, that Hillary was rigging the election? She pre-rigged the election before he won. And then when he won, Hillary's people said that the election was rigged. It's all so hilarious. Right? But then, of course, once you win, then of course the election wasn't rigged. But then in 2020, when he lost, then it was rigged. Right? I mean, and people are always like, well, what about this little situation? What about that situation? What about that situation? And I'll go through every single time. You'll always find there's been one example of something where I could say for sure, hey, that's shenanigans that absolutely should have not been allowed. But even that situation wouldn't have impacted the outcome of the entire national election. It's one thing to try and steal elections on local levels, in which there are multiple attempts, right? And you look through history, sometimes it's even been successful. As a matter of fact, one of the most famous historic anecdotes that I can share with you is about the Battle of Athens in Iwo County, Tennessee, where a bunch of, after World War II, there was all this corruption going on between the sheriff and the local congressman, where they were like trading the seat back and forth. And these World War II veterans went and got their guns and actually they staged an assault on the local jail where the sheriff had like gone in and taken the ballots into like a private jail cell, and the World War II veterans fired on the jail. Nobody got killed, but they managed to get the ballots out and they like cleaned house and stuff. So, I mean, again, this is not me like sitting here saying things like this never happened. But again, there's a difference between Iwo County, right? Something occurring in this situation versus an entire national election. But the one situation that I can tell you that I thought was shady was the situation in Pennsylvania, where I thought what they did was actually illegal. But even the outcome then wouldn't have favored Republicans by the number of votes that were counted after the deadline was stated. But even still, the votes that were counted were legal votes. It was just that they were counted after the deadline that was set by the legislature, and a judge allowed them to be counted, right? And then there's Kerry Lake in Arizona and stuff. And it's just a giant hope. And for a lot of the media on the right, it's a giant grift. They're just trying to. Here's the thing. They're terrified of you. Here's the thing. I'm scared of you too. All right. I'll be honest with you. You as the audience, however many people are watching us on all over the different platforms, maybe 50, 75, maybe 100 people total watching us this morning live. I'm scared of you too. But the difference is I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to tell you what I think anyway, not what I think you want to hear. And I think that's somewhere that's considered the definition of courage. Yeah. Most of these hosts are giant pussies, or they're just greedy, right? They know they're going to make more money if they tell you what you want to hear. And I kind of rub people the wrong way because I try to tell people the truth in a way that makes them feel good, right? But it's like, if you're going to tell people the truth, you have to make them laugh, or else they'll kill you. All right, Marvel movies, they're all a psyop, and my next guest from Young Voices will tell you why on the Wake Up America Show. That wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
George. Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1. You can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2. Most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3. You're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell! This commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. All right, well, now it's time for us to get away from the topics that I know are rubbing you a little bit raw this morning. And honestly, I probably shouldn't start the show with those kinds of topics anyway. Bias confirmation is a powerful thing. I should probably just go with the current when I first start the show instead of going against it so hard, right? But I like to get people to think for themselves. That's what the Wake Up America show is all about. But some people who don't believe in that concept, some people who love to tell you everything that you want to hear while slightly nudging you down the path of totalitarian communism, is Hollywood. Oh yes, we all know Hollywood, it's a psyop. That's why I don't watch a lot of these superhero movies of the day, because honestly, I'm tired of getting preached to. If I want to get preached to, I could go to church on Sunday and not have to pay a single dime. Joining us now to talk about the psyops of Hollywood is Samuel Goldman-Lenett. He's joining us right now. He's a writer at The Federalist. Good morning, Samuel. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Morning. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Doing just fine. Welcome to the program. Glad to have you here for your first time, Samuel. So what's your premise about Marvel movies?
Yeah. So, like you just said, it's pretty much just a giant psyop. Marvel is now owned by Disney. If I recall correctly, they were bought in 2011, 2010. And Disney's the largest media conglomerate in world history. And as we saw really recently, they have a pretty explicit ideological agenda, and they're ramming that down everyone's throat pretty aggressively. It started pretty subtly, and now they're just ham-fisted ramming it down everyone's throat with everything they do. It's pretty hard to escape at this point. And granted, you don't have to go see any of the entertainment, but they own basically everything, so you can't really escape it.
Can you walk us through some examples?
Yeah. So, in a piece I recently wrote for the Federalist, pertaining to the Marvel Cinematic Universe's recent release, Ant-Man, the Quantumania. It's meant to set off the latest phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. First and foremost, it's just a very bad movie, but it features very heavily themes of ideological revolution. There's this band of ragtag startups in what is referred to as the quantum realm, which is like a little pocket universe, if you will, with a universe within a sub-universe within our reality. It's kind of hard to explain because it doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. But there's this little group of people within our reality, and within that demographic, there's this group of basically communist radicals who are trying to overthrow an authoritarian leader. And the whole point is, sure, the leader in the movie that they're trying to overthrow is the antagonist of the film, but the theme isn't necessarily why is this person an evil dictator. It's just overthrow the authority, overthrow all structure, get rid of institutionalized infrastructure, get rid of everything that gives our society form, solely because it is structure. Structure is bad, so get rid of it. Don't question it, just destroy it.
Okay, if you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to Samuel Goldman-Lenett. He's a writer at the Federalist, and he wrote a piece recently talking about Marvel movies and their themes of revolution being used to radicalize viewers. Now, I'm a child of the Ron Paul revolution, Samuel. I got my start in politics back in 2008. It was quite common for a lot of us, right-wing libertarian Republicans to sing, Ron Paul revolution, bring us back our Constitution, right? So, revolution isn't a theme that's necessarily confined to the left. I mean, there's a lot of even conservatives. I mean, we, every year on the 4th of July, we all praise and love those radicals who revolted and overthrew, a dictator. So, I mean, why is revolution itself some left-wing concept?
Well, I mean, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with a properly ordered revolution, right? So no one is going to find, no serious person, of course, if you're the woman, I forget her, Nicole Hannah-Jones, if you're her, you're going to have an issue with the American Revolution because you're a dishonest person. But no serious person is going to have a legitimate issue with something like the American Revolution, or resisting the tide of Nazi authority in World War II. There are such things as legitimate moral revolutions that are properly ordered. The issue at hand is that things like Disney are trying to create a perpetual revolution in which everything that isn't ordered along to emphasize their ideological priors has to be usurped and done away with entirely. So if something isn't along the lines of, secular humanism or whatever ideological thing Disney's trying to indoctrinate children with, whatever LGBT thing they're trying to push to children, that has to be revolted against. It could be something as, harmless as just churches existing. They're going to try and get people to revolt against that very notion.
Well, I'm a bit of a secular humanist myself, while still acknowledging that the church can do a lot of good in society, certainly much more so than government, being a libertarian Republican. Perhaps that makes me stick out like a sore thumb. But I guess I'd like you to kind of expand on this concept of, maybe I'm pushing back a little bit on this idea of an ordered revolution. I mean, how the hell do you have an ordered revolution? I would think that a revolution would be chaotic at its very, by definition.
Yeah. So I mean, every ideological movement has, its ethos, has what it's founded upon, what it's predicated upon. Um, that being the ordering motivation, the ordering factor. So the American Revolution being ordered upon, the ideological factors enshrined in the Constitution and the Declaration. Um, the Disney Revolution, if you will, just being founded upon cynical ideological, I'm prone to say fascistic tendencies to maximize their capital. It's not so much that revolution has to be chaotic, because I mean, we're seeing across the board with these Fortune 500 companies waging ideological warfare. It's very systematic, it's very organized, it's very calculated. In places like, in the French Revolution, it tended to be chaotic at times because it proliferated amongst the masses, and that tends to be chaotic just by the very nature of it.
Right. See, my concern has always been, though, Samuel, is that conservatism, in terms of critiquing Hollywood and critiquing art and culture, conservatism really only exists to critique art and culture created mainly by the left. Don't we need our own corporations creating media, creating works of art, creating some kind of a structured idea of liberty, our own propaganda, if you will, that presents an idea of an ordered liberty in order to counteract the left? Or otherwise, all we are going to be doing is reacting with triggered aplomb at Sam Smith dancing in a devil costume at the Grammys. I mean, if conservatism simply exists to critique the left's art, I mean, essentially it will continue to lose and remain about progressivism deriving the speed limit, as Michael Malice might say. I mean, in what sense is conservatism actually constructing any kind of an ordered artistic response to this, other than just to simply a critique or to call something things like a psyop?
Honestly, I think we're at a point where very little conservative art is being created, and I think it's been that way for entirely too long. Like you said, it's people just like to complain, especially with the Sam Smith thing. I'm of the mentality, granted I was born in the late '90s, but ever since I can remember, the performative Satanism thing has just been a gimmick. It's just been meant to rile people up and get people to clutch their pearls because they know it's going to offend people and they know it's going to get a reaction. An issue with the political right and cultural right too is that nobody wants to really invest in culture. Nobody wants to invest in art. And to be fair, people on the right tend to be more, entrepreneurial minded. They want to see return on investment quickly. Because they want to keep growing capital, they want to keep people employed, they want to keep. That's how they see themselves benefiting society, which is a fair thing to want. Art and culture tend to have a more slow burn effect. So
That
I
makes
certainly
perfect sense, and that's been my primary criticism here, is that the right in the situation is not investing in art. And I wonder if there really isn't something here that's in the psychology. I mean, the right engages in the culture wars, but it does it in mediums that really only speaks to an echo chamber, versus the left that produces art and culture that speaks to mass audiences. I mean, the left isn't watching Veggie Tales, okay? The left isn't watching, or listening to conservative talk radio. The left is not, watching Fox News, right? So we on the right are existing in our media and art and culture, again, in an echo chamber, whereas the entire world is going to go watch Ant-Man, right? So, I mean,
right.
how do we sort of, cross those boundaries and get into a situation where, on one hand, we criticize that the left is always constantly pushing their values through media, but the reality is that the only way to fight fire is with fire. How do we deal with this?
But like you said, fire with fire. I think there's a two-prong approach. Um, I think first and foremost, a big part of it has to be conserving what already exists, because we see an active effort to actively destroy beautiful art that already exists. Whether it's throwing soup at beautiful paintings or tearing down statues, that needs to be full-throated resisted by both culture, by both the masses and the government, because that is destroying public works of greatness. And then there needs to be a reclamation and a re-understanding of what it means, of what beauty means in the public space, what beauty actually is, what beauty is supposed to do in the public arena. And only once we re-understand what that is, then will the masses and I think the cultural and political right be able to reorient themselves towards producing that en masse. It's not as simple as just going into the DALL-E OpenAI prompt and typing in make a beautiful picture of God. It's because personally I don't think of that as art. I think of that as the Antichrist, quite frankly. But I think we have to rediscover what the purpose of art is as a society and rediscover its utility. And then we can move forward into creating art once again.
See, my concern is that the issue is, whenever something new emerges, whether it's technologically or artistically, the right is prone to demonize it, right? That's satanic, right? Artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
perfect right example, right? Any kind of new technology. So therefore, the right is always constantly reacting rather than sort of getting ahead of trends or even trend setting, right? But that's sort of a feature of conservatism, because what you're saying here is that we sort of have to preserve what already exists. But conservatism, preserving what we have now, is just progressivism from 20 years ago, right? So I mean, if we're really going to talk about something, I mean, in some essence, we need a revolution, Samuel, right? If the left is provoking a revolution of sorts, perhaps it might be it might be a good idea for us to take those themes and to expound on them, but for our own purposes. I mean, what was one of the most popular libertarian epics of the last like 20, 30 years, right? V for Vendetta, right? Inspired generations of people for a revolutionary cause, admittedly on the basis of anti-Catholicism, perhaps. But I mean, still, a lot of Ron Paulers took that imagery, took the mask, right, and appropriated that for our cause. Why can't conservatives do the same thing? And my argument would be, before you answer, is probably because whenever anything like that emerges, it's demonic.
Yeah, and to be fair, the whole Antichrist with the AI thing was a bit of a throwaway line. My concern with things like AI is largely the fact that we're seeing that it does have the capacity to replace human function very effectively. And before it really proliferates in society, there needs to be, I think there needs to be guide rails put around it. And I think that's,
Are you using it?
I don't know. No, because it's very new technology still.
I'm going to make a
But
prediction here. I'm going to make a prediction here, Samuel.
Mhm.
And this might be a little blunt, but I'll tell you, if you aren't using it right now, a year from now, everyone in your peer group will have outpaced you by like 10 yards easily. I've taken advantage of AI. I'm using it right now, and it's maximized my productivity far beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, I think I had 20,000 YouTube views a month before I started using it. Now it's 6.7 million YouTube views a month. And, Satan wasn't involved. It was just Bill Gates, baby. Some people think he's one of the same.
Potato, potato.
Samuel, I'll give you a last word on this one before I let you go, brother. What would you like to share with our audience?
Yeah, well, again, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I would posit that in order to really discover, like you said, there is utility in revolution, but I would posit that a properly ordered revolution is one that rediscovers eternal truths, like the American Revolution did. It's one that goes back to, really digs back into our classical understanding of what it means to be human, probes the depths of what it means to be eternal, what is beauty. It asks questions that are actually worth asking and doesn't just go upon the whims of the current era and the current moment. And I would also say you don't need to go see Ant-Man. It's a crappy movie.
I think I'll go ahead and avoid that one. Samuel, I appreciate your time today on the program. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll definitely want to check out your writings over there. Do you have a social media you'd like to plug real briefly, Samuel?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Mangold, MANGOLD_Lenett, LENETT.
All right, Samuel, thank you very much for your time today. We certainly appreciate you very much. We hope to have you back on again. Samuel Mangold-Lenett over at the Federalist. Have a good one.
Thanks. You as well.
Thank you very much. What do you think of Samuel? Send us a text, 573-319-1586 is the text line. That's 573-319-1586. 1586. I'm not going to go to a commercial break like I technically would. Um, typically I would. I wanted to talk to you about this story that's trending this morning on Twitter. Where let me just actually just get you the stinking clip here. This is you're going to see something on the screen that wasn't ready to show you just yet. Hold on. Let me pull this over. There we go. All right, let's take a listen. Now, here's the thing. So the audio on this clip, everywhere I found it, was so quiet that I don't think it will play very well. So I apologize if it's too quiet. I'll try and play it a couple of times from a couple different sources. You let me know if you can hear it, okay? But it's not the highest quality in terms of video when the audio is high. So, anyways, let me just play it for you. This is a Fairfax County School Board member talking about the Battle of Iwo Jima. Take a listen to this.
Thing for us to certainly reflect on as we learn our history and think about it. The days when, Iwo Jima unfortunately happened and set a record for really what, I hate to say, human evil is capable of. And so that's something just to remember. Thing for us to certainly reflect on as we learn our history and think about it. The days when, Iwo Jima unfortunately happened and set a record for really what, I hate to say, human evil is capable of. And so that's something just to
Human evil is capable of. Okay, so like the most charitable interpretation of what she's saying here that might be that that war being a great evil, Iwo Jima might be an example of that. Abrar Omeish, Fairfax County School Board member, says Iwo Jima unfortunately happened and set a record for really what I hate to say human evil is capable of. This might be a little bit quieter version of this clip. I've been trying to get the context all morning, but this is just breaking news this morning, and I apologize there that the quality of the clip audio is so low. But we'll give her a charitable interpretation, then we'll see how other people are interpreting this. Take a listen.
There's also a lot of history in February.
Can you hear this?
A number of community members reached out to me just a few days ago. Was Japanese Day of Remembrance, something for us to certainly reflect on as we learn our history and think about it. The days when Iwo Jima unfortunately happened and set a record for really what, I hate to say, human evil is capable of. And so that's something just to remember, especially actually in advance of Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is coming up, and just so many moments for us to think about what human beings are capable of and how we can turn the tide and turn the trajectory to make sure that we're building better for the next generation.
Okay, so I mean, everybody's freaking out this morning and saying she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. They're saying, that this is an I hate America. She said, they're saying that she doesn't deserve to be in America. Maybe go somewhere people aren't so evil, you ungrateful little, you know what. Says our Marines were evil in the World War II Battle of Iwo Jima. I don't think she said that. Yeah, I am louder. Yeah, sorry about that, Dustin. I just wanted to play that clip for you. But I mean,
learn our history and think about it. The days when Iwo Jima unfortunately happened and set a record for really what, I hate to say, human evil is capable of. And so that's something just to remember.
The Battle of Iwo Jima was a turning point in World War II that saved tens of thousands of U.S. service members.
As we learn.
Saved tens of thousands of lives by what? By killing tens of thousands of service members' lives? Okay, hold on. Let me get there's no doubt that the Marines were brave as hell going and fighting on the Iwo Jima and climbing that mountain and flaming those Japanese out of the holes that they had dug into that mountainside. It was one of the bloodiest, most brutal battles of World War II. And all credit to the men who fought and died in that battle. I mean, I think like 3 out of the 6 of the men who raised the flag in that iconic photo actually died in the subsequent days. But are we being too uncharitable here? I mean, she is a member of the left, right? So, I mean, I guess, should we always just take them at its most uncharitable here? Because someone told me that contextually, I haven't been able to find the rest of the context of that clip, that she goes on to sort of bring up the idea. And again, I don't know that this is true, so please don't take it. You know what? I'm not even going to say it. You know what? I don't know it's true. I'm not going to say it. How about this, right? Evil begets evil, lady, they said. Set the record for what human evil is capable of. Yeah, I mean, you could charitably say that the Imperial Japanese, what they did was evil. They should have surrendered after Pearl Harbor. They should have never engaged in Pearl Harbor. But I mean, you could take that one of 2 of 3 of different ways. You could take it as most uncharitable that she's suggesting that America is a great Satan. That's a very likely possibility, right? Yeah, that's the kind of view that you might find to be quite common amongst the left or amongst people of her ideological ilk. And maybe we should just tar her with that brush in order for me to ensure that I'm confirming everyone's biases here and not going against the grain. But at its most charitable, war is a great evil. It is a terrible evil. Sometimes it's a necessary evil. I know my libertarian friends aren't going to like to hear that, but at the end of the day, people who say things like, we have to stop war at any cost. At any cost? At any cost? Including the lives of our children or our wives or our families or our homes? No, no, no. There's a cost. There's a cost at which is too great to pay. There is absolutely a cost at which it is too great to pay, and that war is absolutely the answer. That's why there are evils and there are necessary evils. To some extent, I don't like to anthropomorphize or to ascribe, evil to things like animals or to objects, because evil is a truly human creation. It exists amongst humans and humans only. But the question of, guns, for example, right? They are a necessary evil to extent. Again, I don't like to place evil on objects because an object cannot be good or bad or evil or what have you. But they're the kind of things that you absolutely need when the time comes to defend yourself against evil, right? A gun is whatever it is in the hands of who owns it. But the question of war as an evil, I think, is unquestionable. The question of the Battle of Iwo Jima, was there great evil done on that island? Yes, absolutely. Terrible evil that occurred. But I don't think that that's how she sees it. Still, the question is, war should be properly ordered too, says Brian Lewis. Yes, I agree. I think that Samuel's opinion there was a little bit, it's a bit of a cope, right? With the problem is that, again, with conservatism is that it's always reacting. It's always behind the curve, whereas progressives are sort of out there trend setting and creating culture and art that conservatives critique. This whole idea of revolution as like an ordered revolution. Okay, and maybe he would have had a good point if he'd have said, well, consider the American Revolution versus the French Revolution, whereas the French Revolution was highly disordered, wasn't centered around any like concept of anything other than perhaps republicanism, and I say small r republicanism. Then he might have had a point. But still, at the end of the day, I mean, here's a man who works at the federal, and I'm sorry to criticize you, Samuel, if you're listening. This is about, conservatism writ large. But the fact that, this is a man who writes for the Federalist and he's not using artificial intelligence. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm kind of taking a dim view of people who are poo-pooing this technology, because it reminds me very much of the problem that conservatives find themselves in with social media today, where when social media first came and when tech first came and when Microsoft was blowing up and when Apple was starting to make their way in the world, the conservatives were doing the same thing. It's demonic. It's our children are staring at the TV set. They're going to go blind. We've got to stop kids from using this too much. There were bills that were proposed by Tipper Gore and others to prevent kids from having access to all this media, right? And from making use of technology. Thank God my uncle put a computer with a 2400 baud, bits per second, 24 baud modem in my bedroom when I was a young man, so I could get into the internet, so I could be ahead of my colleagues, of my peers in school. You have to understand is that conservatism gets left behind in social media and tech and in culture and in art and in sciences, because they are not trailblazers. They are simply critiques of what the left has already done, right? And so I think it's just unfortunate because conservatives can claim all day to be waging the culture wars, but all they're doing is if you're fighting a defensive battle, you're losing. I'll tell you this. This is a lesson that Stephanie and I taken when we're in karate, right? You learn all these blocks, right? You learn blocks and you learn attacks. But once you actually get down into a kumite and you're in a fight, if all you have are blocks, you're never going to win the fight. At some point, you must counter attack, right? At some point, the best defense is a good Uraken offense, right? At some point, the Jodan Uke has got to become an attack, right? The block becomes the attack, right? You have got to engage by creating your own original works. And if you're not using artificial intelligence, I'm sorry, but you're going to be left behind. Okay, that's a fact. I don't care if you think it's demonic. I don't care if you think it's the left center bias. You better make use of it now. because I don't want to hear you complaining in 10 years from now when all the next wave of billionaires that come up are more Silicon Valley elite leftists who want to do nothing but take our freedom and censor our free speech. Get into the battle or shut up and stop criticizing others. Okay, free speech, fine. Criticize them all you want, but you're an asshole and you're going to lose, okay? Get into the battle, get in the arena, start using this AI, engage in social media, create your own art, your own movies, your own films. Let's go get Camellia Peterson. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Bye.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America Show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
If I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We are streaming live on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, all over the place. And of course, always at wakeupAmericaShow.com. If the powers that be ever decide to take me down, you can always find us there at that website. Make sure you check that out. And speaking of websites, our friend Camelia Peterson is going to be joining us here in just a moment, and I were just talking about our awesome Liberty merchandise website. Have you seen it? It's pretty badass, right? We've got a whole bunch of new products and merchandise. My lovely wife, Stephanie, made the most recent one. Ew, government. Ew, gross, disgusting, right? Our Ew Government shirts are now available at apforlibertyshop.com, and I think that my next guest might be a little tempted to get one herself. She's Camelia Peterson, and she's joining us right now. Hey, CJ, good morning.
Good morning. Ew, taxes. Government.
Yeah.
Ew.
Ew. Oh my God. Yeah. So gross. Welcome to the show, CJ. Did you want to respond to what I was saying there a little bit earlier about the question of, right, conservatives sort of like existing only to critique what the left is doing, trailblazing with social media, big tech, artificial intelligence, movies, art, culture, everything like that. Would you like to toss in your 2 cents on this?
I would, because that's kind of right along the theme of something that's been going through my mind lately. And it's this, we've talked about this before, where culturally conservatives are always behind. I think it's because they're always like, well, trying to conserve. And so they immediately find what's wrong with the new technology or whatever it is, and they focus on that instead of focusing on how can we use this to our advantage to create good. And it's this overarching thing that conservatives do that tends to be to find all the problems with things and not focus on solutions. We see this all the time. We see it right now. People are, for example, when you see the culture war stuff, well, there's this wrong and there's this wrong and this is what you're doing wrong. But then what are the solutions to that? We have all of these cultural ills with crime and, homelessness and drug use. Okay, well, that's fine. What are your solutions to that? I was just tweeting last night, and I was talking about that, conservatives really allow themselves to be played by grifters that just ply them with black pill conspiracies and despair and hopelessness. And they're so susceptible. We like to say this about the other side, but on the right, people are so susceptible at the front of my mind too, because we had James Lindsay and the Grifters in the Capitol last night, as I like to say. I know a lot of people like James Lindsay for his anti-woke stuff, and he does a lot of good work on that. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't know about James Lindsay is that he's also very anti-education freedom and school choice. And the thing that he does is he points out all of these problems, but never once does he tell you, this is what we can do. This is the way forward. But he will tell you all day long about how that the left, everything's a psyop, right? The left is infiltrating our private school systems now with school choice. And so now that's corrupted. Well, what are we going to do? I mean, you just burn it all down. So yes, it is time for some hope and change on the right. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Oh God, no. Boo. Obama done said it. That means it's wrong. But you're right, Camelia. You're right. We need a little bit of hope. I'm so tired of the black pill on the right. I'm so tired of the doom scrolling and the doom saying, the gloom and doom. The problem is, I think, Camelia, is that sort of like right wingers, we're kind of programmed to really love this fear, right? There's kind of it's addiction, right? It's like this concept that I've been talking about a little bit on the program, where I've just lightly brushed on it. It was like the global warming people, right? So people who are prophesizing the end of the world, and we're all going to die of heat death because the planet's going to be engulfed and the ocean's going to consume us. Those people who are telling us this and selling us that, they seem like they really care, right? Because they care about our future, because they're the ones who are saying, hey, you need to do this. You got to give us all your tax dollars. We need carbon credits. Leonardo DiCaprio's going to save the world, right? Even though he couldn't even save himself and just get on the door there with Rose at the end of Titanic. But I digress. But the thing is, rational optimists, people like yourself and myself, people are like, hey, things are actually pretty good and things are going to get better, especially if we do this and this and this and this. We seem cold, we seem callous, we seem uncaring, but the people who prophesy the end of the world get all the attention and all the love because people are just, I mean, it's almost like masturbation, right? It just feels good for these people. It's like they get off on this fear and this response, this pain response that they get. But you don't get that same response when people tell you, hey, things are okay. Things are going to be, getting a little better. And they're like, oh, well, fuck you. Actually, you don't care about me. The world's scary and terrifying and I need someone to save me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a psychological, well, it's a biological truth. They know that, that spot in your brain there's an itch that's, taken care of when we have something that's outrage or fear. I mean, look at COVID. There's so many examples. And the thing is that it's not really even a left or right thing. It is a human thing, but it really stops us from going forward because I'm ready for hope. And, I think people are ready for hope. I think they want to hear, like, what can we actually do? That's a lot of the reason why I got into this, is because I talked to so many people and they were so frustrated and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know where to go. They didn't know how to make any kind of change. And, that's
I gotta cut you off real quick before this disappears, because Jack Norris over on Facebook is just coming in hot with some awesome comments. He said, hope comes from change. Fear addiction has hurt conservatives like me because I don't rant nonsense. Friends see me as the other side. All this change offers such hope. Wow, good stuff.
Yes, tribalism is a powerful thing, and that's what it is. And tribalism is driven by fear.
It is. And I mean, and that's what I was trying to say earlier, which is why, this whole like election fraud stuff, why a lot of the Republican right-wing talk show hosts, the reason why they were telling their audience that the election was stolen, even though they didn't believe it, and they didn't believe it, and they said they didn't believe it when they were asked under oath, they said they didn't believe it, but they told their audience that they didn't believe it because they're terrified of their audience. Camellia, it's honestly, I get scared when I'm here on, like, I know that this is a big story and I'm like, I know my audience isn't going to like this. I know that this is not what I should be saying today if I want to get the maximum amount of viewers, keeping people here the whole time so that they'll buy my, energy drinks and my, my gold from Lear Capital and that kind of stuff. I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's the primacy of self-preservation.
Yes.
I mean, human instinct. And here's the thing with the Rupert Murdoch stuff and Fox and all of that with Trump. One of the things I don't know if it was in the article that we had looked at, but I found it in another spot that I thought was really interesting, and really Murdoch allowing what he did also in a way comes from fear because, his job is to keep himself in business. And so one of the really interesting things he said is when he was asked why he continued to allow Mike Lindell to come on the network, night after night after night, he said, it's not red or blue, it's green. He said, the man is on every night, pays us a lot of money. And at first you think it's funny, and then you get bored and irritated, but it's money. It keeps them in business, self-preservation.
That's true. Maybe I need a little bit more aspect of self-preservation. I mean, I'm hoping to have a family here at some point in time. So if you ever hear me endorsing BS conspiracy theories, it's not red or blue, ladies and gents. It's green. Thanks so much for tuning into the Wake Up America show this morning. I'm Austin Peterson, and I am the host of this program. And my friend Camellia Peterson is my friend, who is not related to me because her last name is S-E-N, for God's sakes, or my S-O-N, and I'm S-E-N. Thanks so much for tuning into the show this morning. We're talking a little bit about communist copes and right-wing grifts. And certainly we are awash in grifters, Camellia. But I'll tell you, I've been in this business for quite a long time, right? Media, elections, and all this kind of stuff, politics. And it is a business, whether don't let anybody tell you anything else. And one of the things that I see is that you'll get a lot of these people who come in and they'll get, massive follower bases and stuff. And it's all about, this is the Antichrist and that is demonic and the Bilderberg is this and do all that. But what happens usually is they come in and then they burn out and then they fade away. But what we really need are warriors who are in it for the long haul. I mean, I can't tell you how many libertarian friends of mine have just washed out or faded away. They become so consumed with it. This is what Alejandro and I were talking about on Twitter yesterday, is that, I was asking people, why do you follow me? Right. And I'd ask the same question of the audience right now. If you're watching this on Facebook or Twitter, why do you watch the show? Right. Why do you watch the Wake Up America show? Why do you follow me on Twitter or anything like that? Right. It doesn't have to be nice. If it's not nice and you don't like me, you hate following me, that's fine. But I think people allow themselves to be consumed by it. And so when you're consumed by politics, I think you're easily manipulated. Right. When you don't have other interests, you're very easily brainwashed. Would you agree?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that's when you feel like that you are, when you're cause driven, because a lot of people are in politics, in spite of the idea that, they're just all grifters out for the money. A lot of people are in politics because they're driven by the cause, whatever that may be for them. And when you, when you are tied up and invested in something like that, it takes a lot to really stay with that for a long time. And it's easy to get pulled in one direction and the other as all of these different things come along. We see that a lot in grassroots circles, because everybody's looking for the next big outrage. And they want to take action, and there's all this pent up energy and they don't know where to go with it. And the stuff that takes the long haul slog is not the exciting stuff. It's the legislators that bring bills like the Second Amendment Preservation Act year after year after year after year. And it just, it takes persistence.
Yeah, absolutely. Camellia, we're going to switch tactics here, and we're going to have a little bit of fun and talk about something else. Anything you can do, I can do better. Article yesterday on MSNBC says that 64% of women say they could do their boss's job better than them, but they aren't getting the chance. A majority, 64% of women, think they can do their manager's job better than them, versus 47% of men who believe the same, according to a new study of 6,847 workers that was conducted in February. Camellia, would you do your job better than Jeremy, Katie?
No.
Oh boy, did you like how I worded it like that?
Wait.
Your response to this survey, Camellia.
Yeah, one of the things when I looked at this, one of the comments that was made was that it's not that women necessarily feel more proficient. It's that they feel undervalued and overlooked. And I don't know, this.
I can identify.
Well, it's like, seriously, okay, when we talk about, what your drive is and when we talk about women, getting into the workplace and gender roles and all of those kinds of things that we've hashed over, there are people, including women, who are very career driven. There's whatever drives them, to whether it's, accomplishment, whether it's the money, whether it's proving themselves. We all have different things that motivate us. I've said for a long, long time, I've never been career driven. And so, sometimes you do things out of necessity. So what I'm doing now, I partly do out of necessity, but I mostly do because I'm more cause driven. So which is why, I'm never going to get rich doing it because it's a necessity, but it's not the reward for me in what I do. So yeah, I think I don't know where they're getting this idea that, women are thinking they can do a better job just because they feel undervalued. I guess it depends on what your motivation is. It was also interesting too that they said that 66% of men believe that everyone has the same opportunity, and only 23% of women think that. And I don't know, I just have to say this makes women look kind of bad. Stop whining and do your job well.
Oh my
Sorry.
God, Camellia, that's so good. That's so good.
Sorry,
Oh.
ladies, I'm sorry. But, well, and one of the other interesting things was that they talked about, there wasn't a whole lot of information about this that was intriguing, but I didn't have time to dig into it, that women leaders were leaving organizations at the highest rate ever, that like for every one coming in, two are leaving, which is, to me, is kind of fascinating in the context of our current culture and everything that's been going on for the past 3-4 years.
Well, you see, Camellia Peterson, who is joining us now on the show right now, we're talking about a poll that talked about 64% of women say they could do their boss's job better than them. I have to say, you're in it for the cause and you're in it for good reasons. And that's why I think you and I are good friends, is because we both believe in something. But you say that you're not going to get rich. But the whole idea is that one day the Wake Up America show turns into this giant empire of liberty. You're going to have your own television show, Camellia, and we'll just have the camera on one side so they can't see your glass eye and it won't look weird. So, and we'll make you rich. Camellia, anything else you think our listeners should know before we let you go?
No, the only thing I'll say is, my favorite part of that song that I immediately thought of when you sent me this topic, but I was listening through that, is like, Annie, Get Your Gun. Isn't that the musical it comes from?
Yeah, how's that go?
Anyway. Well, my favorite part in that song, when they get to, is when she says, anything you can buy, I can buy cheaper. I can buy anything cheaper than you. I'm like, oh, hey, one more thing I have to show you before we get off, because, Donald Trump has come out with his big plan to like raise all the tariffs and tariff, all the other countries to death. And so, so I had to wear my shirt today.
Uh-oh, tariffs are a tax on the consumer. Nice avocados there. Very suggestive.
Oh, God. Oh, my word. No, this is a throwback to when Trump was threatening to put tariffs on our Mexican avocados.
Oh, sure.
How dare you?
Sure, and it has nothing to do with me talking about how people would eat them because they look like testicles. Camellia Peterson, you are the weakest link. Thanks so much for your time today. Appreciate you, CJ. We'll see you on Thursday.
Okay, see you.
See you later. What do you think of Camellia Peterson? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. You know what you ought to do right now if you want to see Camellia Peterson get her own show one day? Send us a super chat. That's right, send us a super chat. Make a donation to the show. I'll read your super chat on air, and that'll help us to get even closer to our goal. We'll give CJ her own show. I'll put the camera on one side right there so you won't even be able to tell that there's that kind of going on over there, right? Camellia loves, and I'm pretty sure she highly endorses, the AP for Liberty shop, especially our newest line of ew government tees. We've got ew government tees, and we've got ew taxes tees. And not only do we have them on t-shirts, but we've also got them on, what do you call them, tank tops as well, and a nice cool little bag. It says ew taxes on one side, it says ew government on the other side. Get your ew government shirts, or your ew taxes shirts, over at AP for Liberty Shop at apforlibertyshop.com. We'll be back. Don't forget, BX Bullet coming up at 8:30. Oh, the next topic, the Napoleon complex, short men. It's been scientifically proven. Oh, it's real, baby, and it's spectacular. We'll be back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Donald Trump and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Step right up, ladies and gents, to learn about the coolest president yet. He's not just any old prez, he's Calvin Coolidge, and boy oh boy is he different from the rest. He was quiet as a mouse, but don't you underestimate his power. He knew how to handle money, and he didn't waste an hour. He cut taxes, lowered debt, and balanced the budget with ease. No wonder the Roaring Twenties brought such prosperity and peace. But don't take my word for it. Grab a copy of Calvin the Coolest President and see for yourself. It's a children's book that'll make you smile and help your little ones learn about wealth. You can find it on Amazon Kindle or get your hands on a paperback at apforlibertyshop.com. So come on down and get yourself a copy of the book that's making waves all around town. You won't regret it, so get ready to be floored, because Calvin Coolidge, well, folks, he really scored.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Do you have any real-world experience?
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. It's time to rise in freedom. Are you ready to rock and roll? Thanks so much for tuning into the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We've got lots more great content to go for you. Coming up here in just a few at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, BX Bullet will join us to talk about the rise of AI Deepfakes. That's right. If you watch the commercials during this program, you'll see that I've made a few, well, AI representations that are cartoons of Elon Musk and Joe Biden and Barack Obama to advertise my awesome AP for Liberty shop, of course. But some people are actually taking photographs of them, videos of them, making very realistic looking manipulations of public figures, celebrities, even just normal, regular people. Artificial intelligence can take those pictures or videos of you and make it look like you said or did something that you just didn't do. There's a lot of danger to that, and it's something that we'll have to discuss in just a few with our friend BX Bullet. She's at BX Bullet TV. She'll be here in just a few minutes. What would you like to talk about today? You can send me a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. And of course, those text messages are always free. Of course, you might have to pay for the text if that's what your plan is with your phone. But if you'd like to support the show and make sure that your chat is read on air, you can send it as a super chat over on YouTube. That helps support the show and help me to possibly make Camellia rich one day. Wouldn't you like to see that? That'd be cool. I kind of think we need to get her like a little curvy couch and she can do these like little intimate conversations and things like that here in Missouri. Matter of fact, I think we might be able to make something like that happen, but only through the support of viewers like you and of course our friends at fieldofgreens.com. Use code AP for Liberty for 15% off, or visit the AP for Liberty shop. Too much. Okay, Austin, stop selling. Start giving us some content. What do you say? Content. All right. Here's your content. I got your fresh hot content for you. The Napoleon complex has been scientifically proven. Yes. Yeah, I know. Don't be too disappointed, short males. Well, maybe you should be. The new research published in the journal Personality and Individual Differences suggests that people who are relatively short and unhappy about it, well, you can be short. If you're short and happy about it, well, you're fine. But if you're short and unhappy about it, you may engage in antagonistic behaviors in an attempt to offset your height disadvantage. Yeah. And what can you say? How dare you? The researchers used Amazon's Mechanical Turk, which is interesting. It's a crowdsourcing site, to recruit 367 adults for the study. So not a huge study, but interesting enough, right? The participants were asked to complete what's called, this is fascinating, the Dirty Dozen Dark Triad questionnaire, which is designed to assess levels of psychopathy. Is it psychopathy or psychopathy? Somebody help me out there. Narcissism and Machiavellianism.
No, God! No, God, please,
that's a personality
no,
trait that's
no,
defined as being manipulative or cynical and lacking in morality, right? So the dark triad, psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. That's the dark triad. Oh, look at me. I'm doing the Illuminati symbol. They're going to get me. It's demonic. AP's in bed with Beyonce. Don't you wish? They were then asked to list their height and divulge if they were satisfied with their height or wish they were taller. So they were answering this questionnaire, all these short guys. Shorter people, the researchers found shorter people and those who were unsatisfied with their height were more likely to exhibit signs of psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. Right? So shorter people, especially those who wish that they were taller, are more characterized by traits that are likely to make them show off, be confrontational, and be interested in power. These relationships may best be understood from an evolutionary framework, suggesting that when people cannot be physically formidable, they then may be psychologically formidable instead. That makes a lot of sense. There's a really good part of. Have you ever read of Mice and Men or seen the movie of Mice and Men? If you haven't, it's about it's about basically like if you have a friend who's mentally disabled, then you have to shoot them before somebody else does. Don't believe me? Look it up. If you haven't read it or seen the movie or watched the play, then that's the whole point, right? Never let another man shoot your dog. But in it, they have this character, and I think his name, I can't remember his name, but he's just one of the foremen, and he's a short guy, and he's got short man syndrome, and he's always antagonistic because he's not physically formidable. He is trying to be psychologically formidable. And Lenny, who is the mentally disabled man in the movie or in the play, Lenny is big, and he's giant, and he's physically formidable. So this young, sort of short foreman at the ranch that they're working on is always being antagonistic to Lenny because he feels this short man syndrome. So Of Mice and Men is a really good example of that. If you've never seen it, highly recommend it. Again, the most important lesson learned from Of Mice and Men is make sure that you shoot your mentally disabled friend before somebody else does. Okay. So if they're going to shoot, but only if they're going to shoot your mentally disabled friend, right? Right. When comparing genders, short men tended to be slightly more likely than short women to have narcissistic traits. Well, no, you know what? But gender did not impact a person's likelihood of exhibiting psychopathy and Machiavellianism. So not everyone who is short, though, hates their height. Some short men have turned their shortcomings into movement, as seen last spring when it was declared Short King Spring. Right. Dave's a 1 in a million in terms of being super confident, internet personality Carolina Vazana said of her man, David Lopez. He isn't ashamed or embarrassed to stand next to me in 6-inch heels. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story before I go get BX Bullet. I know she's waiting for me right now. I once dated a woman who was about 6'6" in heels. So she towered over me. And honestly, I kind of enjoyed it as a challenge. It's kind of like when you were out in the African savannah, you see like a bull or an ox and it's staring at you and you just kind of like stare it down. And if you stare it down, yes, it can eat you or it could kill you or destroy you. But if you just stare it down and you intimidate it, then it can be under your control, right? Like that scene in Crocodile Dundee where he does that to like the ox, he like makes that thing and then it sits down and stuff like that. So short men, it's all about the eye contact. I'll tell you that. You just have to intimidate them with eye contact and then she will be yours. All right, I gotta go. BX Bullet. We're gonna talk about AI deepfakes when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America Show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America Show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America Show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America Show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America Show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
George. Thank you for watching the Wake Up America Show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1. You can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself, or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2. Most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3. You're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell! This commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamerica.show.com. All right, well, you've seen me using artificial intelligence to help supplement my workflow. Yeah, I went from 20,000 YouTube views a month to 6.7 million YouTube views a month. That's thanks to using artificial intelligence, adding it to my workflow. And you've probably seen the commercials for AP for Liberty Shop where Barack Obama says, don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. And maybe you've even heard Elon Musk coming out and saying, good morning, the Cantina crew. Well, no, I actually couldn't afford to hire Elon Musk and Barack Obama, so I kind of faked it. It's not exactly a deep fake, but more and more these representations of real people are getting more and more recognizable and much more lifelike. And there's a lot of dangers involved in something like that. Joining us now to discuss is one of our tech experts. She's a badass mom from Texas. Her name's BX Bullet, and she's joining us live right now. Good morning, BX. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Austin.
It's so nice to see you here today, BX. Thank you for joining us every week on the show. We love your regular weekly appearances. So a deep fake, I guess, is this generally just somebody being represented online as saying or doing something they didn't actually do?
Well, first of all, you called me a tech expert, and that is hilarious. Okay, because I'm like one of these weird people who I have a hard time understanding cryptography and all the software aspects of technology, right? Like the actual the intricate details. But I've been really into understanding the big concepts, right? The big problems that we could be facing when it comes to technology in the future. And one of the biggest things that we've been talking about for 20 years is, AI technology and how, everybody relates it to Skynet. We're going to have a big robot takeover, right? And you laugh, but there are a lot of people out there, including Elon Musk, who do believe that this is going to be our reality. And it might not be, robots flying around and shooting you. We're already kind of seeing what this AI technology is capable of. And, it's funny. I think we talked about this one time before, but I saw the movie Wag the Dog when I was a really young kid. And I had this moment of everything could just be fake. Everything could just be making words up and stuff. Right. And so throughout my life, when I see people have this little moment of realization, I call it the Wag the Dog moment. And everybody is having that right now because we're all seeing the emergence of this deep fake technology and going, well, how do we know it's real? How do we know what we can believe? And so obviously there's been a lot of focus in the news about AI deepfake nudes and deepfake pornography, because 96%, I think they said, of all AI deepfake technology is in pornography, because of course it is. It's the internet. But the dangers of that are severe. It's a type of sexual abuse. You're hearing a lot about it now, probably hearing image-based sexual abuse, which is usually constitutes revenge porn as well. But now it's also including, this AI technology, this deep fake, non-consensual pornography, which when you think about it, this is a video of you that's indistinguishable to the naked eye. And this could be going to your employer. This could be going to your parents. This could be going to, anybody. And so we're seeing a lot of celebrities and actors and, content creators really start to speak out about the dangers and the harms of that content. But it gets even darker from there, because once you know that you can put this face to anybody, you can do this to anybody. Like AI technology where they can do this person does not exist. Have you seen that? The thispersondoesnotexist.com.
Oh, yes.
So if you go to, So if you go to thispersondoesnotexist.com, it's just doing web crawls to approximate what a person would look like. And it's almost indistinguishable. You can still see artifacts, but it gets better and better and better as time goes on. And so what you're really seeing here is the ability to make anyone or anything look like they're doing anything or anyone, right? And unfortunately, this is going to take some dark tolls on society as people realize that what they're seeing cannot be trusted at all.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's scary stuff because obviously the first use of this is going to be pornography, but I think the second use of this is going to be politics, right? You're running a campaign. You can make a deep fake about your opponent, doing something with, outside of wedlock. There's a lot of dangers for things like this to disrupt our political system.
You say wedlock, no, really what we're looking at is the ability to put a political leader forefront saying, I'm going to nuke your country, right? Like, so that they're able to actually put a message out there that would be so convincing that most people would believe it. And of course, there's going to be, there's going to be ways to detect it. And I think that moving forward, you're going to see a lot of blockchain-based encryption techniques to use self-verification and authentication to make sure that political leaders especially are going to be using this kind of encryption to say, this is my message. It's a digital signature, right? So people are already doing this on Twitter. I've been seeing a lot of people start to add digital signatures to their tweets and stuff. So on that level, I think that it's pretty easy to overcome some of the dangers. But this is just the tip of the iceberg for AI as a whole, right? This is almost like just a taste of what's to come. And when I say a taste, I mean like this is a drop in the bucket. And I think that it's kind of funny how people are reacting to ChatGPT, to AI deepfake technology and going, oh my God, this could be a nightmare, a disaster. It's like, this is a drop in the bucket of what AI could become. And understanding that I'm here in the midst of freedom lovers and people who do not like, regulation, this needs to be regulated. It needed to be regulated a long time ago. We have this tendency to not stay up. We have a tendency to not keep up with cybercrime ever since the dawn of the internet, right? It's like we have all these cool things that we can do on the internet, but cyber criminals are already 10 steps ahead of us. And I don't think that at the individual rights level, we've covered that at all. Basically, they've been focused at the national security level. They haven't done anything to protect us from, the dangers out there for cyber criminals. And AI technology is something that has the ability to rapidly begin to advance so quickly that by the time it's a problem, regulating it might not be able to solve anything. So, there's a lot of existential dilemmas that people have been talking about for a long time linked to AI.
Isn't this kind of like a Pandora's box situation, though? I mean, like the devil's already out. I mean, the technology's out there. I mean, how are you going to get rid of it? You can't. It's like trying to ban Bitcoin or something like that. There's too many nodes. How would you regulate something like this, BX?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to be regulating anything else, but it's something that needs to honestly be treated like nukes. I mean, like we need to have conventions in place and international agreements and checks and balances and things like that, because I think that a lot of people have kind of used, or Elon Musk is always using the seatbelt example, right? Like, oh, well, seatbelts, they weren't regulated for a really long time. And people kept saying, no, we don't need regulation, putting it off. People are dying. And then eventually they were like, okay, fine, we'll put some regulations in place. And like the dying stopped, right? Or was drastically lowered. But with AI, we're not going to be able to do that, because once there's a problem, it's self-learning, it's self-growing, it's going to just encompass everything and become such a massive problem that it's an existential threat before we even have a chance to get in there and regulate it. So it's funny you mentioned, well, the Pandora's box, right? Well, that could be applied to any technology, and it has, right? I mean, nuclear technology, right? The atom bomb, all of these things are technologies that we justified by saying the cat's already out of the bag. If we don't do it, China's going to do it, Russia's going to do it, Germany's going to do it. And so we need to, be at the forefront. And that's what's been driving technology, is this tension, right? So a lot of this technology is driven by tension of being the first country to put it out so that we can be the first to perfect it.
Yeah, it's kind of an arms race, if you will. If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Make sure that you click like over on YouTube if you're watching us over there, or give us a rumble if you're over on Rumble. We're also on Facebook and on Twitch as well. We're glad to have all of our followers and friends there this morning. If you're just tuning in, I'm Austin Peterson, and you are listening to BX Bullet at BX Bullet TV. We're talking about the dangers of the rise of AI technology as well as deepfake technology, which we've been sort of explaining and going through in the last few minutes. BX, looks like we're running out of time at the end of the segment here. Is there anything else that you think our listeners should know about this topic, or anything else you'd like to plug before we let you go?
I mean, this is just a good topic to stay on top of, even if you're not really like it takes a special kind of mind to really grasp and understand these kind of futuristic problems. But I mean, really, Elon Musk, if he's kind of boring to listen to because he's kind of drone, but at the same time, he's been telling us things like this for a really long time. It's time that we start actually listening and taking this kind of stuff to heart. It's one of those things that doesn't really get talked about at like the NBC, the CNN primetime levels very much. It's usually one of those highbrow subjects that's discussed at world summits. I think that this is something that needs to be brought down to a level that the public can understand the threat we're facing, because I don't think that the public really is. I don't think that the public can't understand what kind of threat that this is and how dangerous it actually could be.
It certainly is very concerning. A friend of ours over on Twitter just a minute ago tweeted that these deepfakes have already been used in politics to discredit certain people that do not toe the WEF line. That's the World Economic Forum, who are notorious for launching these types of campaigns to make people think certain individuals are part of their scheme when they are not, including deepfakes.
You have to look at the alternate too. The plausible deniability aspect is that once this is out and nobody can distinguish it real from fake, everybody has plausible deniability now too. And that's like a whole nother topic of discussion, but yeah, something to just kind of think about.
Thank God. I finally need an out here for all of my past misdeeds. Hey, BX, one of our listeners texted in and said, hey, can you get the stunning BX Bullet TV a few of the AP for Liberty stylish Aloha shirts? Hey, BX, do me a favor. Head over to apforlibertyshop.com today. Tell me one of the shirts that you like over there, and I'll send you whichever one that you want. Any of the items that you want over
absolutely
there. Yeah, just as long as you promise to wear it.
I will.
All right. Thanks, BX. Have a great day, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks. You too, Austin. Bye.
Thank you very much. What do you think of BX Bullet at BX Bullet TV? Make sure you give her a follow on Twitter right there with her handle underneath there at BX Bullet TV. There's two T's. One is the bullet, and then the other one is the T for TV. You can follow her over there. Yeah, I thought that was a good idea. Actually, yeah, we'll send her a shirt from the AP for Liberty shop so she can help to rep. Thanks for texting us, by the way. That was our first time getting a text from one of our friends there. It's 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Yes, technology expert maybe was not the word I was looking for. Somebody said futurist, one who studies and predicts the future, especially on the basis of current trends. A technology futurist. I guess I would consider myself a technology futurist. I'm always looking forward to the future, and what the future might bring. Oh, and speaking of the AP for Liberty shop, we've got a whole bunch of awesome new merch designs, and I just can't stop talking about it because honestly, yesterday was one of the best sales days in AP for Liberty shop history. I think it was like top three in terms of best days for the AP for Liberty shop. And I'm just so excited because everything's working out. We've got sponsors for our show. We've got Field of Greens that are sponsoring us. We've got Lear Capital with the AP for Liberty shop. Merchandise shop is working. People are going in and they're finding awesome items and they're purchasing them. We've got monthly subscribers, Freedom Ninjas here and things like that. Everything's working. So the show is like just barely in the black, right? For a few months, we were running at a deficit. I was spending, my own hard-earned money to build up the show and to build up the shop. And now we're finally at a point where we're actually starting to like make a tiny little bit of a revenue, right? And it's nice. We've got Nathan going part-time. If we continue having shop days over at AP for Liberty shop like we did yesterday, then I'm going to hire Nathan full-time. And I don't know if I should drop this news yet, but listen, it may or may not happen. I don't want to jinx it or anything like that, but I think it's going to happen. I think that the Wake Up America show is going to be in a real television studio very soon. Yeah. It's not confirmed 100% yet, but it's looking very likely that we're going to go from this to a big old real television studio for the morning show. And I think that that's really exciting. And that means that we're on track to have even more shows. Right. And that's because of people like yourselves supporting us. Thank you. I'm grateful for you. And you know why I'm really thankful and grateful for you? Because you let me say the things that I want to say and you don't run away. Right. That you don't get scared. That's a lot of the things that I say here you probably don't necessarily even agree with, but you listen anyway. Right. Some, you take with what you like, you leave what you don't, but you're not freaked out. Because a lot of people, when they hear opinions like mine, that go against the mainstream, they run like hell. Because not only do my ideas go against mainstream, but they also go against the alternative mainstream, which is a thing, right? So thank you. You rock. Check out AP for Liberty Shop at apforlibertyshop.com today. If you've been meaning to buy something in the shop, but you haven't yet, today's your day. Awesome OO government shirts. They're only like 20 bucks. OO taxes, nice little handbags. And it's not just for the ladies, it's unisex. We got tank tops and all that kind of stuff as well. Appreciate you all very much. Looks like we're going to be growing. Looks like our Wake Up America show will be quite operational by the time your friends arrive. I've got to go because I'm going to go produce a video over across town. So I got a gig. I got to go do a gig. I got to leave a little bit earlier. But that's because I did go stay later yesterday. And maybe Steffi and I'll stay a little later on Friday. Love you. Appreciate you guys. You rock. Things are looking up. Things are going to be fine. Things are going to be better than fine. Things are going to be great. You're going to have an awesome day. You're going to be lucky in life, in love, in business. Everything's going to go your way. Because if you visualize it, you think it, it's very likely to come true. No, actually, that was the story that I was going to do before I decided I've got to run. Wishing and hoping really does make you more successful. 3 personality traits will make you more successful. I'm going to drop this in the YouTube channel so you guys can read this. It's not just wishing and hoping and dreaming and praying. Wishing and hoping and dreaming and praying. It actually is true. All right, I'm going to drop the link in here. Think positive. Have a fantastic day. There it is. There's the link. Today's going to be amazing. Breathe in that beautiful air, as my beautiful wife says. You're beautiful. Life is beautiful. Things are going to get better. If they're bad, they're going to get better. If they're worse, they're going to get better. Just believe. There you go. Read that article. They will if you believe. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you. Quest Fanning, Doug H. No, not a green screen Quest Fanning, a real set. Dustin, Elizabeth Press, Rare Camellia, all of our friends over there on the live stream today. Tolly Owens, nice to see you. A.L. Wild. We'll see you guys very soon. Have a wonderful day on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided, to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/temp.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.